So in this video I'm going to talk about the 3 or 4 things that I think make an interesting image. I kind of use this as my one-stop formula when I'm looking to create a new image, and then kind of use these 4 categories as my starting point on any new image. So those 4 things I think would make a interesting image would be 1. Good light, 2. Good subject matter, 3. Good composition, and then my 4th one, which isn't really a 4th one, is accident. Sometimes you just get a really good image by accident. You kind of need to nail all 3 of those elements, light, composition, subject matter, to get a really good picture. But I always start off with one of the 3 and fit the other 2 around it. And then that's kind of, that forms the basis of most of my images, and that is it. So now I'm going to go onto my computer and put 4 images from the last couple of weeks that I really like. One of them will have started with good light, one of them will have started with good composition, one of them will have started with interesting subject matter, and I'll get one good accidental image as well. So I'll start by showing you which of those 3 things was the original inspiration for the image, and then how I fit the other 2 around it to nail all 3 of those things in total. I'm not going to go into super technical things about composition and lighting and things like that. I'm just going to show you I liked the lighting here, I then built the subjects and the composition around it, and then other examples of when I liked the composition, built the other 2 around it, etc. And one accidental image that I really like. So I'm going to take you through 4 recent images that I've taken in the last couple of weeks now, and show you where I started with each of one of the components and then built the other 2 around it. And I'm going to show you one accidental image which I really like, and show you how, it still fits into those 3 categories, and that's what makes it a good image. But it can happen by accident, and you can kind of fit the pieces of the image into these 3 categories after the fact. So the first image I'm going to show you is one where I started with light and then built my composition and my subject matter around that light. So this is where we were running up Helvellyn at about 6-7 in the morning and caught the sunrise. So it was this sunrise that was the interesting subject matter. It was the light. This is kind of what I came to photograph, this amazing sunrise in the background, and then I built composition and subject matter around that. So we've got the light, and now the composition. The composition here, I should probably try and get some kind of grid overlay on this, but you can see the subject matter falls in slightly into the right hand third. I don't like using the full thirds grid. I think things look too empty. So it's slightly off center in the right hand third of the image, or the right hand half of the image, but not fully on the thirds line. And then down here I've got the subject matter on the bottom third to show off that really nice light and that sky in the background. And so the subject's kind of in the bottom right intersection here. And then the other compositional element here is this line. So the slope here is the leading line, and that's leading you from the left hand side of the image down the right hand side of the image to the subject matter. And typically as Westerners we kind of always look from left to right of an image, and that is just because I think it's because of the way we read. I'm not sure if there's anything deeper than that, but it's kind of, we always look left to right of an image, generally speaking. So here we've got the left hand side of the image, and we're pulled down to the right to the subject matter. And then the third thing here is the subject matter. So we've got a runner, and we've got him running up this hill, and kind of made sure the stride was in an aesthetically pleasing place, because sometimes not every part of the stride is aesthetically pleasing. So that's the subject matter. So here we started with the light. It was that sunrise and the silhouette that made the image. And then after that we built in the compositional elements, the leading diagonal, the thirds, and the subject matter afterwards. So this is one where we started with the light, fit the other 2, and the 3 elements work together to make a really nice picture. Just another quick one from this shoot. Again, the light was all about the sunrise. That's the reason we went. But then you've got your compositional elements here. So the subject's in kind of the left third. We've got the sky being pushed into the top third, above the top thirds line, otherwise his horizon intersects his head. And then we've got the diagonal mountain from left to right leading us to the subject, and then another diagonal with this flare pattern again leading us from right to left this time. But again, the sun is sat on the other thirds line. So those elements kind of all come together. There isn't too much of a subject matter, which is why I don't think it makes quite as strong an image as the running one, but you've still got three components here which pull together to make a good image. Okay, so the next image, that was a bonus image. The next one I am going to show you is something where I started with the subject matter. So this is the image here. So here I started with the subject matter. The subject matter was the finish of an 80-mile ultramarathon. So the subject, or the purpose of this image, was always to capture the finish. It was the subject matter, which is here. And then we built lighting and composition around that subject matter to give three solid elements to make a good image. The composition here, there's quite a few elements to this. Again, not to the full thirds line over here somewhere, slightly off center, but not in the full thirds grid, because I think at that point your eye naturally will end up sitting on these people around here and not the subject where it should be. So the composition slightly off center, but not on the full third. And then the other thing, we've got a diagonal line pulling us from the left of the image to the subject matter. So we've got this diagonal line up here pulling us from the left up to the right. And then we've got the second champagne splatter, which is, as well as filling this messy dead space from the scaffolding, also pulls us back round and to the image. So we've been led up and round to the subject matter, and it's that motion of the eye, which we don't even pick up on, that makes the image pleasing to look at. As well as that, everything else is slightly blurry, and we've got a subject matter pin sharp, which again we kind of drawn up round and to the subject. So sorry, that is the composition and the subject of this image. The lighting, the other thing that I think makes it interesting is the lighting. So we've got the orange street lamp in the background, which is casting this orange glow on all of our kind of background elements. You can see it over here, and then to kind of separate the image, it's not a flash gun here actually, it's a few high-powered head torches, but they give off a really harsh blue lighting, and that harsh blue lighting kind of focus your eye. It's as well as background blur, it's another way of separating your subject matter from your background, and that kind of separation again is another element of this image that I think makes it really nice. It also gives the blue lighting also gives a really nice sharp light to kind of accentuate the sharpness on the face. And the other part of the lighting here is, well, it's not really light, it's more a camera setting. The shutter speed was fast enough to freeze the face, yet you've still got blurring on the champagne. So around here, all this is slightly blurry to kind of give that sense of motion, whilst keeping the subject sharp. So those three things, we've got the subject matter, which is the reaction to finishing, the composition, you've got the leading lines, the framing, and then the lighting, which is the colour balance mix, as well as the sharpness of the lighting, picking out the subject. So there are the three things here that I think make this a pleasing image. So my third image is going to be composition. So I was really struggling to find an image where I started with the composition and built the subject matter and lighting around it, because that's, well, as I found out from making this video, that is something I almost never do. So I've used this one as kind of an example of that. This is actually me in the picture. I got someone to press the button for me, but the image is all built around this big snaking road, pulling you, again, kind of using that reading from left to right part of our subconscious. So moving from the left to the right of the frame, and your eyes get stuck on the subject before moving off. So that's the compositional element of this picture, and I'd say that's what I started with. It was the road that I noticed. But as well as that, it is also the lighting. So this really light concrete road was bouncing back all the ambient light, and then you've got the dark background and the dark subject here, which kind of contrast and set against this light road. So you move with the composition, you move the composition and the light because of the brightness. You move down and kind of stick on the subject matter. Third element, the subject matter. Subject matter here is me and doing some shots for Vertex Clothing, which is the cycling clothing I'm wearing. So here's an example. Again, I found this quite hard to find. An example where I started with composition and then the subject and the light were built around it. I would say this is one of the weaker images, the ones I'm going to show you. But I was trying to find an image where I do start with a composition and then work backwards. And now I'm going to show you an accidental image. So now here is the bonus image, the accidental image that I really like. In terms of the three light, subject, composition elements, it is probably the weakest of the three, yet I still really like this picture. So the subject here is our model, that's quite clear. It's framed, the composition wise, it's dead centre. Again, I don't think you should always stick to the rule of thirds. I do think sometimes it is nice to have kind of, when you've got something dead centre and the background's all blurred around, you naturally pulled in to the subject here. This is going to go down as an accidental shot because I was just out shooting with my mirrorless camera, just kind of on a weekend. No real thought went to the image, but I really like the image, and you can kind of see after the fact why, because it fits these, because it gets these three: composition, light, subject. Those three things kind of make the image. So we've got the subject, which is the face here, and then compositionally, we've got the framing of the face using the scarf and the hair, as well as the horizon's kind of in the bottom third, but that's not really a huge part of this image. The main compositional element, I would say again, is the diagonals from the left to the right. You're naturally drawn diagonally along the strands of hair from left to right, and then stick on the subject here, the eye, or your eyes kind of follow around the hair up and then down, and you get to the eye, and that's the compositional element that I think really makes this image pleasing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video, found it interesting, or maybe you can even incorporate this triple system into the way you take pictures. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, disagree with me, and then check out my Instagram linked in the description and give me a follow. That way you can stay up to date with the kind of pictures I'm taking, and hopefully be able to see how I've picked out one of those interesting three elements and then pushed it into one picture to get good light, good composition and good subject matter. Thank you for watching.